Are you holding on to hope that your emotionally unavailable guy will finally open up, love you the way you need, and choose you and be the partner you've been waiting for, the partner you know he can be? But over time, things don't change. You've fallen into this pattern that just leaves you feeling unworthy, unloved, and unfulfilled. But you just can't give up hope that change is going to happen. Today, I'm going to show you 8 clear signs that an emotionally unavailable man will stay exactly the way he is, no matter how much love, effort, or patience you give him. These are both clear external signs and internal signs within you that will tell you need to stop living in fantasy, stop wasting your precious energy and life being stuck in his waiting room, and instead see reality for what it is so that you can move on. Like my client Anne, who was married to an emotionally unavailable man for 10 years. He was the father of her children, and after they separated, Anne kept taking him back. He'd show some signs of change only to slip back into old habits. And once Anne got clear that these signs are a deal breaker, a definite sign that she was wasting her time, she stopped waiting for him to change, was able to look within herself and got help to heal her patterns, and was finally able to move on with freedom and clarity. If this is a pattern you know you need to break, let's speak, because this is the work that I do with my clients. Book a call with me in the link in the description below. We'll chat to see if we're fit to work together. Now, when you're with an emotionally unavailable guy, the landscape is really confusing. He might be sweet and loving and open one minute, and yet he's also got this other side that closes him off from you, right? He withdraws or rejects you, almost as if he has an alter ego. Now, what's more challenging than being on the hook with this intermittent reinforcement is holding on to hope that he will eventually come around one day and choose you and realize how deeply in love with you he is, and it will all have been worth it for you waiting around. You might even be in the pattern of trying to help him, right? You're putting all this energy into fixing him, changing him. But can an emotionally unavailable man actually change? Is he just situationally emotionally unavailable and it may be worth waiting around for him to heal? Or is he chronically emotionally unavailable and he's just going to keep doing the same things he's always done, regardless of who he is with? Let's firstly look at what healthy change actually is, because when two people start a relationship together, they're not fully emotionally available to each other, right? They hold back. It's normal. It takes time and trust to open up. So over a period of time, you've got two people that meet in a connection like this. And at the start, they're going to be somewhat disconnected from each other because they've only just met. It takes time to then one person starts to show up in an increasingly more vulnerable way, and then you notice the other person leans in the same way, and you might stay the same for a while, and then this happens. And eventually, two people will come together and connect. Now, what's really key here is that when one person starts to open up and intimacy is formed more, the other person responds well enough the same-ish, somewhat. There's definitely this kind of incoming connection between the two of you. And you might have conflicts and ruptures over this period of time, but there is self-reflection and repair that's happening. And this results in your bond increasing over time together. This is healthy intimacy. This is how a healthy relationship is formed over time. But if this is happening over time between the two of you and you start to meet and you start to connect more with that person, but they keep pulling away, and time passes and you connect more and they keep pulling away, obviously the distance remains the same, right? This is not progress. This is not change. You are trying to attempt to get closer and he remains the same or pulls back, keeping the same space between you all the time. So conflict between the two of you that occurs just keeps the same level of space between you, right? So that repair is never fully realized. And short time might have passed, right? Certain aspects of your relationship might feel like change is happening, right? You collect history together and memories. You might even be moving in together, starting a family together, but you're still just as distant from him. It's like he's an island, right? He might even have an avoidant attachment style, whatever label you want to put in it, or a history of trauma that you are very compassionate about, but that just means he's chronically emotionally unavailable, and you're always going to have this gap between the two of you. No matter how much time passes, things won't change. Now, I speak every week with women who've been married and in situations like this for years and decades, have whole lives with men that are chronically emotionally unavailable, and they're left feeling alone and empty, like they missed out on an entire life they should have lived, all because they clung to this aspect of his personality that seemed available at first, but they didn't know these following signs to look out for to prove that over time change won't occur. occur. So we'll firstly look at a series of external signs of behavior in him, and then identify signs and telltale feelings in you that prove that change won't happen, because both are really important data to look at. So the first external sign is lack of consistency in the way he behaves and shows up in the relationship, in his personality, or even in his personal history. It's like he emotionally checks out or shuts down. He's yo-yoing between being the guy you love and some other guy, like a Jekyll and Hyde personality. For a relationship to develop and grow healthily over time, you need someone to be available and consistent enough of the time, more than 50%, ideally more than that. And when they can't show up, they can communicate that so that the rupture doesn't happen. Or if there is a rupture, repair occurs because they're acknowledging that and they're listening to your feelings and needs and responding to that rather than being dismissive. Now, if you really want to get technical, there's a ratio that the Gottmans come up with, and that ratio is 5 positive or neutral interactions for every 1 conflict or rupture that you have. So this means that you would need 5 consistent kind of interactions that are either positive or neutral for every 1 interaction that is a conflict, a rupture, an issue, a problem. And if you've had an amazing honeymoon period, but that fades quickly and he seems to turn into someone else and perhaps only shows up time to time as the man that you initially fell in love with, it's a clear pattern that who you initially fell in love with was actually someone who was masking, and you're now seeing the real him. The second sign is that his actions and words don't align. He might have opened up and shown up well at the start, but again, that lack of consistency means you trust his words less and less. He might appear genuine and you might give him the benefit of the doubt, or you're overly compassionate or understanding, which I see so much, when again, he doesn't follow through. And over time, it becomes clearer. His words are actually empty, and his behavior tells you everything you need to know about who he is and how he feels about you. The third sign is that the patterns between you become predictable. Weeks and months and years look the same in terms of the patterns with his behavior, right? So for example, you're asking for change or for one of your needs to be met or something or other, and he does that for a few weeks and then he goes back to normal. He's gotten comfortable with your tolerance for his behaviors and there being no consequences really. And that continues to reinforce his belief that he can just get away with it and he doesn't need to make an effort. There doesn't need to be anything to build healthy intimacy and connection there because there's going to be no consequences and he's getting by just fine. So there's no need for change. So a clear indication of this is that your conversations can go around in circles. You have the same conversation or argument again and again, and despite you trying to come at it from different angles to try and solve it, you're met with the same set of walls and behaviors and responses that tell you he's just repeating patterns and doesn't even realize it. There is no opportunity for growth there if one person's just going to show up in that way, despite how much you're trying to shift and change and come at things from different angles. The fourth sign is around self-reflection. He either doesn't self-reflect after challenges or conflict and just sweeps things under the carpet or excuses them away, or his self-reflection is kind of empty, right? Even though he might self-reflect, it doesn't actually result in any kind of personal growth or accountability or real change. They're just sort of empty apologies. So it's one thing to be self-aware and self-reflective and to say the right words, but it's an entirely different thing to put that self-reflection into improving one's capacity and skills in relationship so that they can have a better relationship. So if his self-reflection is just non-existent or empty words, you can be sure that change isn't going to happen because growth in this way is the only way change can happen. Let's move on to some internal signs now. The fifth sign is that your needs aren't being met. You're noticing that you're either still asking for the same needs to be met and they aren't being met, or you've grown comfortable with not having your needs met, or perhaps you never had them met at all. And so you don't even ask or expect them to be met. This is heartbreaking because you've grown smaller and shape-shifted to be with someone who is who he is. He's kind of stuck in concrete and you're the one pretending that everything's okay, all the while you're not getting the amount of communication you need or honesty or shared commitment or responsibility and reliability. I just want to put a caveat here, right? Not everyone can meet all of our needs, but there needs to be a level of needs being met in in a relationship, in a partnership, that makes the relationship worthwhile, right? This is a two-way street here. And if you're doing all the bending and twisting to have his needs met, his needs for space or lack of communication or whatever that looks like, and he's not reciprocating in return, that's a clear sign that change isn't going to happen. The sixth sign is that you don't feel like you know him any better over time, right? There was an initial period of getting to know him, but that's kind of stopped and there's no depth to your knowingness of him. It's like his emotional world never really softens. Weeks and months might pass, but he still doesn't open up about his inner world. And instead, he might distract himself by doing lots of activities or going out and just not kind of giving you the time you need to get to know him. Or maybe he just shuts down and withdraws. Or at worst, he might project or deflect things onto you, particularly when it comes to his uncomfortable feelings. So you can't actually work through conflict together, which ultimately will strengthen a bond between two people. You're just simply left with a gaping hole where you want to know him, but he just won't or can't open up. And this leaves you feeling more lonely in the relationship because time together hasn't brought deeper closeness. It's actually made you feel more isolated. The seventh sign is that you don't feel emotionally safe or that you can't trust him more over time. There's a part in him and also a part in you that is just really separate from each other. And I'm not just talking about our natural independent lives that are really healthy in a relationship. It's actually a lack of attunement between the two of you. It's like you've got this inner world that isn't attuned to his, and he's got an inner world that you just can't even know about. And as a result, there's not much transparency or honesty about feelings. It's like both of your masks are meeting each other in the relationship instead of the real you. Maybe you feel the need to even walk on eggshells, but perhaps it's more subtle. It's like a hiding parts of yourself because you're afraid that he'll reject that part of you because he's done it before, right? Not because you've got past trauma, but you've actually shown up a bit and you've had that rejected and it just didn't feel right. And he wasn't open to his response and to change through that kind of little mini rupture. And so you are now just kind of hiding parts of who you are. This is really important to know because when someone's emotionally unavailable, they can't hold space for their own emotions, let alone someone else's, right? And emotional safety is impossible here. And the relationship has this big shadow, right? This really big part where feelings and emotions just stay repressed. They can't be talked about and they're just swept under the carpet. Sign number 8 is that you feel just as, if not more anxious rather than secure in the relationship. Perhaps you got some security from that situation, like over time there's a kind of a relationship established or you live together, but deep inside you don't feel securely attached to him. And this isn't necessarily because of your anxious attachment. This is because the container that the two of you are in is lacking basic things like emotional safety, connection, attunement that would help soothe your anxious attachment. Because without emotional safety and knowingness and your needs being met and that consistency, a secure relationship just can't form. You can't always blame this on your anxious attachment, right? If there was some security between the two of you, you would be getting some level of soothing from them as well as the personal work that you're doing for yourself. Now, I wouldn't be doing my job here if I didn't point out the real issue here. Why, after you probably knowing deep down in your gut that he'll never change, and this video hopefully affirming that for you, are you still with him? How many times have you gone back to him knowing more and more each time that things are just going to be the same, but there's something in you that just can't help going back. It feels familiar and comfortable, and going out and dating and starting afresh with someone else just feels really scary. And maybe you think the better the devil you know than the devil you don't, or maybe that sunk cost fallacy of you put so much time and effort into the relationship, it's worth staying around. Honestly, the answer is simple. If you learned how to love from emotionally unavailable caregivers, you learn to tolerate distant love, partial love. Love that looks good on the outside, but hollow like an Easter egg, sweet on the outside, but empty on the inside. This is a pattern within you that you have control over. You can break it and stand true in the knowledge that you deserve healthy connection, intimate connection. You deserve to grow old with someone that can grow with you and has all of those capacities and capabilities to move through conflict and connect more deeply with you. Now, if you want help breaking this pattern, this is what I help women with. If you want to know more about how to do that, I'd love you to watch my webinar that goes through the exact 3 steps that I take my clients through inside my program, Heal Your Heart School. You can register for the webinar in the link below. In the meantime, here are some next step videos for you to watch so you can move one step closer to having an incredible relationship with someone who is emotionally available and feeling beautiful and connected with yourself as well. And for now, I will see you in the next video.